Channel 96.1, Brooke Morrison, kicking it here with NF.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
We're at PNC. You're going to perform tonight with Logic and Kyle. How's the tour been?
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
I think this is like the 6th show. Like we were talking before we started this.
Yeah.
The hottest show for sure
The
today.
hottest show. We're
Yeah.
at Charlotte, North Carolina is obviously a little bit humid out here.
Yeah.
Do you have any like plans on how to kind of get around that? Or are you just going to down a bunch of water?
I'll probably drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
But it's something you have to work through because the good thing is for me is that my set's only like 45 minutes.
Right.
So, but
Right.
I almost like passed out at a festival that we did one time.
Do you jump around a lot?
Yes.
Is that why? You're
I like
working out?
literally, I'd never, for that show specifically, the sun was like directly on stage.
Okay, that
which it
sucks.
shouldn't be today, but like,
Right.
yeah. that
It'll be
was, like-
okay. The evenings get nice. You said you're from Detroit, right? And
No, just from Michigan.
Michigan?
I was born in Saginaw.
Oh, got
and,
it. Okay.
Moved to, I grew up in a small town called Gladwin, Michigan.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you said the summers up there are really, really nice.
Yeah, they're awesome.
So your latest project is Perception, right?
Yes.
And you actually, a lot of people don't know this, you have 4 albums. And you're, on tour now and you have a #1 song. Like Let You Down is such a big record. And how has that kind of changed, you making music in this process for you?
Well, Perception's my 3rd record. I put out an
Okay.
EP in 2014, and then
Got
my
it.
first album was Mansion in 15, Therapy Session in 16, and Perception in 17.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like a huge, like awesome transition as far as like Let You Down was my first time ever going to radio.
Right.
So first of all, I appreciate you guys like playing that.
Oh my God, we appreciate you.
Yeah, no.
Thanks.
It's been like life-changing for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the support from the fans with just everything from views to streaming to sharing, radio, everything.
Yeah.
So it's been cool. It's been something I hadn't really like go around. I just did a tour in Europe and
Nice.
going around the
Lucky.
world and seeing like people in places that you've never even been to, people
Right.
like knowing your stuff. But it's also like interesting too because when you've never been on radio, you're used to like you do your own shows and like everyone knows your songs, and then
Yeah.
even this tour sometimes it's interesting, like people don't even know who you are yet,
Right.
and then that song comes out and they're like, oh, it's this
Yeah.
guy, you know what I mean?
Which is, that I find that to be super interesting that nobody
Yeah.
knows who you are since you've been doing this for such a long time. And even in your music, you say you've been doing it since you were a kid.
Well, I think on this tour, I think some people, the interesting thing with radio is sometimes people hear a song and they love it and they just download that song.
Right.
Because we're in like such a place now in the music world where like singles are just like people just grab a
Yeah.
single and sometimes they don't necessarily go dig into like the artist.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I mean, on this tour, there are a lot of people, like, it's pretty awesome. Like, fans have definitely shown up. But when you
Right.
have, like, the majority are Logic fans, for sure. We have 14,000
Right.
people at a show.
Mhm.
Maybe a couple thousand are mine, maybe.
Yeah.
So it is. But I love it, though. I love doing shows where I feel like I have to, prove myself or,
Right.
like, doing shows where people don't really know you and they're just kind of, like, listening and focusing or whatever.
Yeah, which
you
I
know?
think is really cool because you performed at our Wango Tango.
Yeah.
A couple weeks back, or maybe even last week or something. I don't know how long ago that was, but that's such a big deal, and millions of people are watching you. So I feel like even your exposure at this point, and even being around Logic, has been really, really great for you because you're so talented. But I know, like from Jump, you get compared a lot to other white rappers, and of course Eminem. And being from Michigan, I think that has made things a little bit more interesting. How do you kind of deal with those comparisons?
I mean, I used to care about that more early on in my career, but now I don't really care about that at all.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like every artist is influenced by someone else. And me being influenced helped me. Like, I fell in love with music. I fell in love with listening to Eminem's music at a young age.
Definitely.
And as I got older, I started listening to a lot of different styles of music.
Yeah.
And I think if you, like, really sit down and listen to my albums now, I think they're like, yeah, you're going to hear, like, influences, but you're also hearing a lot of my own, like, my style on things.
Of course.
Like, the cinematic, like,
Yeah.
it is a kind of, like, emotional, intense style of music, but also I think my albums, if you listen to them, are super diverse. They go up and down a lot.
Right.
There might be like a piano ballad style song, and then the next song I'm like yelling on a beat that's kind of like a rap beat, but it's not. It's kind of cinematic, you know.
Yeah, and my favorite song of yours is No Name.
Oh, awesome.
Which is super heavy.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, you're being super honest on it, of course. And I think a running theme of your music is usually growth. You know, just kind of being open to new things and you growing as a person, you growing as an artist.
Well, I think my how I always describe it to people is, if you listen to my first album, Mansion, that came out, to now, it's like, it's literally a diary of like my life. Like even when I go back and listen to it, I'm like, man, I'm still dealing with that, or like whatever, because that's kind of what music's been for me for so long.
Right.
And so now I'm at a place, you know, after my third album, I'm like, man, I'm still dealing with a lot of these things, and I'm definitely going to still like talk about them as I go. But I'm also trying to figure out how to turn, you know, I'm 27 now. I'm trying to figure out how to turn the corner and like start getting better in some of the areas that I talk about. But it's difficult. Sometimes it can be a lot harder, and like, you know, trying to overcome those things when you really start digging deep and pulling up your past and everything that you're trying to deal with. That it can get like even worse for a little while.
Of course. And you know, you're really inspirational, I think, to a lot of your fans and to a lot of newer fans that are coming around, because I think people are really starting to latch on to hip hop as a form of uplifting. So I think you're incredibly inspiring.
Thank you so much.
You know, I really want to know what your next steps are. You know, now that you have Let You Down, and now that you're on tour with Logic and everything, what are you looking for in the future?
I just released a single yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, just like a kind of like No Name, like just like a track for anyone to listen to, obviously, but like a core track for my fans. And so I'm just gonna, like, right now I'm just kind of doing that. I'm touring a lot. I'm doing like 4 tours this year. We did one we started one in January, and then I went to Europe, and now I'm doing this tour, and then I have a tour in the fall that I'm doing for Perception. So super busy year, like a lot of like challenges and new experiences for me, but all that kind of stuff inspires me to write music and gives me more content. Just because I have put out albums back to back, I haven't had that much space in between to like really. My personal life is such a huge part of my music, so I haven't really had time, I feel like, to experience that much new life to like talk about, you know what I mean?
And live a little bit, which is interesting, because my, you know, somebody I know really, really well who kind of mentors me as well told me that too. Go out and live life, because you can't really be an entertainer, you can't really be an interviewer if you haven't actually experienced
and
stuff.
if your music's so, it's, as an artist, it's like when you go from no one knowing you, like maybe 100,000 people heard a song, or maybe 10,000 people were hearing your music, or back in the day when 10 people were hearing my music, to now have like I said earlier, a song like Let You Down, 500 million or whatever it is at now, like that's it's a real awesome feeling, but also like a crazy feeling, because if you have a personality like mine, it's super encouraging, but also like doing interviews and like radio for the first time, and touring, and trying to put out more content, and like running an online store. Like my fiance runs our online store. Like I'm very like hands-on in every aspect of my music. It's like trying to tackle like the overwhelming, like I'm super thankful for all the things, but also I'm like the Wango Tango thing. I was like so nervous, and my anxiety was so bad for that, because like so many people are watching you, and you're just like, I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like I wish I could do this and no one knew who I was. I know. And that's not possible. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm so thankful for like all the people supporting. And so I guess that's just this year for me, that's been like a huge thing to try to learn, like with success and with everything, my personal life, trying to like handle that, but also put out good music. And then there's just a lot of fear and a lot of things that happen within that circle or whatever, you know, because this industry is so unforgiving. It's so like you could be huge 1 second, and then the next minute, you know, no one cares about you. And so it's just kind of like, that's why you got to find, I'm trying to like find myself, because, you know, you don't want to let your whole life like weigh all the weight on that, because it's just not.
That's
you know.
literally crazy because I've been having that same conversation with like my mentors basically.
Yeah.
Is how to kind of like deal with this and still be happy without trying to seek fame
Yeah.
or something, because you know the bigger you get, the more money you get, the more
Yeah.
exposure you get.
Well, and you have this idea in your head. Everyone has this idea of like what it's going to be like, and in my opinion, it's pretty much nothing like what you think it's going to be like.
Exactly.
So it's like, I think people think they're going to find joy or they're going to find, and you can. I'm not saying you can't, but like I make a lot of money, and I don't like really feel better. I mean, I have things that make me happy, like being able to help family and like things like that. But like it's just like me finding myself and like really trying to work through my personal experiences has become like a super important thing that I'm trying to navigate.
Right, as it should be. Do you consider yourself to be an introvert, or you know, somebody who just likes to be alone a lot of the time?
I do.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm cool with like hanging out with some people, but I also do like I'm not really like the party person. Like I don't drink. I don't
either. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't do any of that stuff just because I don't do good around intoxicated people, just to be honest.
Right.
Just from my personal experiences, but it's not like shade against anyone who's who does that, but but it does suck. Sometimes it does suck because sometimes it probably would be good for me to just like be able to chill in a room full of artists and people and communicate. So maybe someday I'll be able to like work through that, but I would say I don't mind being alone. But sometimes it's not great to be alone. Like, to be honest, on the first tour of this year, I like had like the worst anxiety that I've ever like had and stuff, because I never experienced this, I guess, the success or whatever, which was awesome at the same time, but then also came with a lot of like, hey, we need to do radio every day, and hey, we're doing 4 tours this year, and hey, like, you know what I mean? I never had that before, so it was like awesome, but then I was like, man.
So how have you kind of dealt with it, you know, day to day?
I wouldn't say I've dealt with it. I am dealing with it. Trying to deal with it. Like, it's something you got to learn. Yeah, it's like,
of course.
And it's sometimes you feel trapped because you don't really like know who to talk to, because I don't really have that many people that like experience, like, it's the worst feeling being on stage and feeling like you like don't want to be on stage,
right?
Because you have like thousands of people like watching you, and you're just like standing up there, and you just want to like be in a place where no one can see you,
right?
And so that's a lot of what I was experiencing. I was like, it's a battle, because you're just like thankful, like I said earlier, but you're also like, man, I just do not want to be in front of all these people right now, you know? So I'm not trying to make this all depressing, but that's like what I'm experiencing, you know?
Not at all. That's the thing, though, is like talking about this kind of stuff. A lot of your fans, a lot of music fans in general, find solace in you, and find solace in your lyrics, and talking about that and being open about that. And so that's one of the things that I immediately gravitated towards.
Yeah.
Is just your ability to be open. You know, one of your lyrics, you say like, "How are you going to find trust if you don't give it back?"
Yeah.
Or something like, "Don't give it away," or something like that. And honestly, I was like, bro. For real, like that is.
I love that song. If You Want Love, that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, because honestly, I have trust issues as well. I feel like a lot of people do. So in no way is this depressing. I think this is.
Well, and
amazing.
I think fans will find it super like. I'm excited about. My favorite thing to do is record and like write new music, because it's like it gives me like relief, and not many things do, but like I just the connection that I have to it. But also I do feel like I have a lot of like insight, and as I'm like growing as a person, I think it will be super beneficial for like listeners, because they are kind of following me along on my story, but they also have their own story, which is why they relate so much. And I do think there's just like a lot of things that I've learned even over the past 3 years, like the way I think now compared to 3 years ago. Even if there's a lot of areas I haven't really gotten a lot better in, I've like realized a lot of my like issues, and like now it's just like, how do you start getting better, you know? That's
amazing. I mean, either way, I think you're doing an incredible job. Are there any like new collaborations coming? Are you, kind of talking to Logic about that kind of stuff, or maybe sometime in the future?
I don't have any like specific collaborations right now. No, I'm just kind of doing my own thing. Like I said, I just dropped a song with a video, and I'm just gonna let it. Thank you. I'm just gonna let it do its thing, and then if something comes along that feels right or whatever, then I'll do that. So.
Any dream collabs?
I don't. I feel like I used to, but now I'm just kind of like, I don't really have a
Yeah.
dream collab. I'm just kind of waiting to see if there's something that I'm like, oh, I really
Want to be a part
think
of
this
that or
song's
something?
powerful, or I think
Yeah.
I also like doing collabs that people like don't expect,
Right.
or like
Yeah.
with people. There's so many talented people that no one knows about,
Of course.
and so I think that's super like dope to have someone on a song. People are like,
Yeah.
who's that? Like my friend, she goes by Flurry.
Okay.
She was on my first Mansion album,
Okay.
and she was on the song Mansion, and it was just like, I wasn't very big then
Yeah.
either, so I guess maybe that's a bad example, but she's like super talented artist that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah.
And so I like doing stuff like that as well.
We can't wait for it. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to see you perform. Congrats on all the success so
Thank
far.
you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Of course. Thank you. NF Channel 96.1, Brooke Morrison. Bye.